So hello you guys, welcome back to my channel. I can't believe this is even a video that I get to introduce and that I get to say happened. If you know me and you've been watching me for a while, you know that my favourite thing is interviewing people. I just love talking, I love letting people speak, hearing their influences, hearing their loves and passions in life. So over the past few years, I've really made it like a goal of mine to try and connect with as many people as I can from some of my favourite projects, shows, movies, bands. And it's an absolute joy. Now, if you know me well, or you spent longer than 10 minutes with me, you would know that probably one of my biggest passions in life is Supernatural. It's one of, if not my all-time favourite show. It's been with me for over half of my life. And I went to a Supernatural convention for the first time last year, where I met a bunch of the cast. But oddly enough, one of the people who had like the strongest impact on me was Mark Sheppard, who plays Crowley. He was just so wonderfully kind and odd and weird. And I can say that, and I think he'd agree with it. Alright, I'm recording this intro after doing the interview. He was just so down to earth and easy to talk to and to be around. And I was like, I know this man has stories. I know he has some things that he could share with the world that would just be fun and interesting to listen to. So I reached out for an interview and I expected nothing back. And shockingly to me, somehow we ended up with an interview, okay? And if you have looked at the runtime of this video, yeah, before editing, I think it ended up being about 2.5 hours long. I'm going to try and edit it and clean it up. I'm not going to take out anything important, don't worry. But just clean it up just so it's cohesive. To sit and talk to somebody who you regard so much about life, about music, about passions, about like where you've lived, what you've done, the people you've met. That's why I want to do this. That's why I love interviewing. And he has had such a beautifully erratic life that I just was in awe. My earrings, oh my god, like I said, listen, I'm filming this after doing the interviews. My earrings, I took them out, okay? My hair is all messed up because it's 27 degrees in Ireland today. We're going through a heat wave and the sweat on my upper lip is starting to look like a slug sizzling up in the heat. But getting to talk to him has been probably one of the highlights of my years. We talked, like I said, all things music. He's a drummer as well, which I am. So getting to talk about drumming, about the instrument itself and the art and influences, and like him putting me on to a bunch of music I'd never listened to before. I can't even tell you how incredibly impactful that this has been on me. I'm still kind of just like sitting here trying to like dissect half of what was said and half of what happened. But he is just such a beautifully wonderful man. Who was gracious enough with his time to sit and talk, like I said, for a couple hours and share some of his wisdom. And it's rare as well that you meet somebody who's like soul and personality is every bit as gorgeous as their talent. You know? It's crazy how you can know someone for so long. Like I said, I've been watching Supernatural for over half my life. Now I know he has been in a bunch of shows. He's been in so many projects. He's an incredibly talented actor. But I have known him on my screen for over half my life because of Supernatural. So to get to sit with him and talk to him, it was an absolute honour. It really, it really was. So, yeah, all that being said, I hope you guys enjoy. A big thank you to Mark for being down to sit and talk. And yeah, here is my interview with Mark Sheppard.
It's good. I'm seeing I'm seeing some dolls behind your head. I have equivalents on this side, but
yeah, there's a lot going on behind my head. You're there somewhere. Where are you?
Right behind you, directly behind your head at the top shelf. That's me. Yeah,
there you are.
Covering up my face on the Monopoly set.
Yeah, completely intentional. I didn't want to seem too weird. I was like, one of him in the background's enough.
Where are you from?
I'm from Limerick in Ireland.
I know it very well. Last time I was in Limerick, I was playing the Savoy.
That's going back.
That's going way back before you were born, or close to when you were born.
The Savoy's gone a while.
Yeah, well, it wasn't doing too well back then. I remember when it caught fire.
I remember I met you last year at it was Crossroads, and I think it was Liverpool. And I remember you had the same response. You were like, "Where are you from?" And I was like, "Yeah, Ireland. I'm Irish." And you're like, "Yeah, where are you from?" And I was like, "Ireland." And there was a moment where you were like, "Am I speaking fucking English? Where are you from?" And I wanted to get into that a little bit because I had no... Fuck off. So you know Ireland.
Yeah, of course I know Ireland.
I want to talk about the the band stuff, because I had no idea you were in a band till I met you. You dropped all this crazy lore on me, and I was like, okay, what? So how? How did all that start? How did music start? Especially before acting. Usually it's the other way around.
No, well, I was always a musician. Still am a musician, but I was in bands in England as a kid. I was in a band called the TV Personalities, that's sort of around 1979, 1980,
Hmm.
signed to Rough Trade, early days of Rough Trade Records. So I played in a lot of bands that were connected to that band on Rough Trade. So that was the original sort of indie scene that came out of punk. So we were making records at Alaska Studios, places where the Soft Boys recorded, and Robin Hitchcock did his first records there. And there was a wonderful engineer there, Pat Collier, engineer and producer, and he was the bass player of the Vibrators. So he'd transitioned from being just in a great, brilliant punk band, brilliant London punk band, to being a guy that could produce in 4-track and 8-track and the
Mm.
lower fidelity studios of the time. And some of the greatest stuff was recorded at that time, which was so much fun to do. So we were knocking out records when I was 16 years old, which was a lot of fun. So 1980, I think, was my first album on Rough Trade, and I did a whole bucket load of different bands. Nicky Sudden I played with. I played with Jowhead. They were both in a band called the Swell Maps at the time. And the associated bands with that, like Mike Scott from the Waterboys, was connected to Nicky. I played with Robin Hitchcock when I was 17, and there was a saxophone player that was playing with Robin Hitchcock, and that was Anthony Thistlethwaite. And Anthony became the other Waterboys guy with Mike. So we're weirdly connected in the strangest ways in music. And this was at a time when bands were getting signed, but nobody big other than U2 was signed in Dublin. And so I've been playing in the Barracudas, who are a really well-known band, and toured the world with them. And I used to drink in the Devonshire Arms in Camden Town, in Kentish Town, Camden Town. And the Pogues used to drink in there. So I was my later days of drinking, the early days of the Pogues. So I always knew those guys pretty well. I used to play pool there, and my Q lived behind the bar, and just one day it became Eamon Carr was there, and they were looking for a new drummer. The drummer from Light a Big Fire, Dublin band, was Huey. I don't think he was doing well medically at the time, and they were looking for a new drummer, and they brought me over on Paddy's Day. I think, good God, I can't even remember the year. It's the early 80s. And sort of baptism by fire. So I was strolling around Dublin, which is kind of where my dad was brought up. So my dad was brought up in Ranelagh, and it's just convoluted and complicated. And I ended up joining this band on St. Patrick's Day, and the day after, actually, I think the day after, I went into rehearsals with them. And they were a great band. They're an amazing band. And that was at the beginning of everybody being signed. Hot House Flowers, us, Aslan, Into Anua. All those bands were in that era. It was just an amazing time. So you couldn't walk down the street in Dublin without seeing at least 15, 20 people, because we're all trying to do the same thing. So it was an interesting baptism of fire for me. So, I sound very English, and yet most of my family is Irish. I've got family in Perrystown, and at the time I had family. Do it again. Oh, it's being recorded. It cut back in. There you go.
Are we good?
I think so.
That
It says
was.
recording, right? Yeah, it says recording. It's just a glitch.
Did it stay for you? Because the whole thing cut for me. Little
It
window.
just went. It went and then came back.
All right. Well, go on anyway.
I think Dublin in the 80s was an extraordinary place. It was an absolutely amazing place. There was a lot of optimism in it. And one of my managers was Eamon Carr from the Horselips, who had brought me into the band. And we just went back out and played the old show band circuit. So we were playing gigs in Ireland that hadn't been played since the 70s. The days of the Miami show band and terrible things went on then. So a very interesting time politically in Ireland. Very interesting time politically in Ireland. And for me, a very interesting time musically in Ireland as well, you know. And so, you know, Jack Charlton's Ireland beat England 2-1. Life was good. But it was a very odd thing for my identity because, you know, I'm born in London. But as I said, most of my family's Irish. Some of my family are German. But I've always loved the place. It's always been something very special for me. And so the great insight there is, you know, end up playing the Savoy and playing the Atlantic Ballroom, Ballybunion, you know,
Oh,
Caesar's Palace.
Ballybunion, you do know Ireland.
Of course I do. Caesar's Palace, Bunclody, playing up in Glenties, playing everywhere, you know. And it was all attached. Everybody was connected by drinking and music, and it was absolutely fantastic. It was an amazing thing, and it was just a magical time. It was an absolutely magical time. I had cousins who were like hairdressers and whatever. They ended up starting a band. One was in a band called An Emotional Fish. So it was just really extraordinary. And the band got signed to Virgin, or a subsidiary of Virgin. And so, but as the nature of bands is, you know, there were some greedy people decided not to pass some of the remuneration onto us. So I was living, I think, on 50 quid a week in a really shitty bed sitting, actually sharing a flat with an A and B telephone and an electric meter that you could occasionally use a butter knife in if you were really clever, and a gas meter you could do the same. So it was an adult portion. It was wonderful, but we go out and play, and it was a magical time. We could play. You know, we opened the Joshua Tree tour at Croke Park.
I heard. Dude, how the fuck did you land that?
Well, we were a big band, you know. We were a very big band, very political band. Lead singer was Tom McLaughlin he was a Belfast boy, very good poet, wonderful poet. And they wanted us to play, so we were the first band on stage at Croke Park on the Joshua Tree tour, which I have the poster. My wife got me the bus poster, so I have that in my living room. Got a lot of fun things out of that. I mean, it was an amazing place to be, and it was an amazing thing to do. But it was so big. It was such an enormous show. I remember being on the stage and hitting the snare drum and going, "Oh my God, my aunt can hear this in her house, miles away." And there was 250,000 people outside the stadium. You know, there was no point driving home. I walked home with the crowd. And back in those days, I had a big white pompadour, so everybody knew who the hell I was. So, yeah, it was kind of magic. I remember I ended up in the Pink Elephant that night. It was kind of a good night.
Kind of a good night. Yeah, I'd say so.
Well, it was the worst times of my drinking as well, which was, all anxiety and mental health based stuff. And by the time I got to 25, I left that band. I left Dublin, and my dad had come to America to do Max Headroom. He's playing Blank Reg in Max Headroom. So I came out to visit, and I was like, what am I doing there? I should be here. I left all my stuff in Dublin, left my drum kit, left everything, and just left the band. And came out here, I think, 87. Yeah, 87 or so. End of 87, I was done. Came out and started being here and bumming around here, and ended up getting married and moving forwards and doing stuff, and got sober in 1990, the second day of 1990, which was really interesting. And then by the weirdest set of circumstances, ended up because I always touched acting. Like, people have been trying to get me to do stuff since I was 16, 17. I mean, it's stupid stuff. Like, they were looking for drummers for Spinal Tap back in the day, and I was a drummer in town in London, and I wasn't that interested. And then a wonderful casting director called Sheila Tresize pulled me in for a film, or a film, as we would say. And I ended up passing it. I didn't get it. That's right, I didn't get it. And I was offered another film as a consolation, didn't want to do it. So I said, no, I'm busy making a record. And I sort of left it alone. And people had seen, what I could do, what they thought I could do as an actor, and they wanted me to go up to Manchester, the Guardian Royal Exchange or whatever, and do something. It just wasn't my path at the time. And I got sober, and I worked in a normal job. Actually, it's not really normal. I built, designed, and maintained a video duplication system with absolutely no experience doing it. So I used to duplicate hundreds of thousands of VHS videos for wholesale. And I built the system that did it. Absolutely bluffed my way through everything. And
The job that normal though, that is somewhat normal.
well, it gets weirder. Then I got asked to do a play in LA, and that was the time of 100-seat theatre here. So major actors were doing 100-seat theatre because it was equity waiver theatre. So you could have a 99-seat theatre, and 30 plays went up a week and 30 plays went down a week. It was incredible. It was an amazing time. So the play that I did, myself and Trevor Goddard, who's no longer with us, unfortunately, we did this play and it got a huge amount of attention, like a disproportionate amount of attention. It was like lightning in a bottle, and I won a bunch of awards. And I was nominated against Ed Harris doing Scar. Charlie Halloran was doing the Kentucky Cycle that went to Broadway. I mean, it was an amazing time, 92. And I was working in this duplication. And then, suddenly the press is going nuts because I win like Drama Critics Circle Award and something and other bits. And I remember a guy coming in the morning and looking at me and goes, "I can't even take a shit without seeing you in the newspaper now." I'm like, "Well, thank you. That's really nice." And he looked at me and he said, "I'm really sorry." I said, "What for?" He said, "We just thought you were a pathological liar because in this article in the Los Angeles Times, like front cover of the calendar, was like all these things I'd done, playing Pro Park and touring and being in bands that were, toured all over the world and done all these things. And they just literally thought I was a liar who just made up stories and said whatever the fuck he wanted to say until they read it in the newspaper." So I've lived a lot of life, shall we say, up to that point, and got a new lease on life by getting sober at second day of 90. So that's 35 years ago, 35 and a half years ago. And I wouldn't touch drums and I wouldn't do anything. Occasionally play around with music here. And I ended up going back. It's a long story, but it's a fun story. And I ended up going back, and Sheila was like, "Well, about time you did this play," and I had a tape of the play. And she sent me over to see Patsy Pollock, who was casting a film called In the Name of the Father. And she looked at me and said, "I'm doing this film and you're completely fucking wrong for it, but you never know. What do you know about the Guildford Four?" And I said, "Quite a lot, not that much, but I know a little about it." She goes, "Well, how long are you here?" So I'm going back tomorrow. So where are you going? I said, LA. I said, "Well, if I set up a meeting with you and Jim Sheridan, would you go meet him?" I said, "Yeah, of course." And so I got Jim on his way out of LA, meeting me on my way back from LA. And I brought him a bunch of press clippings of Light a Big Fire and stuff, because he used to run the Project Art Centre in Dublin. So he was responsible. I mean, he had a fist fight with Public Image when they didn't show up for a gig once. So he showed up with that.
It's so weird to bring them up. They're playing Limerick this week sometime.
Well,
they're still touring.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, and Jonesy's playing with Frank and everybody else. I'm laughing my ass off. It's amazing. So yeah, but I played in Dublin at God, what was the name of the place opposite the Garda station? The old gig that was opposite the Garda station.
Is it big or small? Small place?
I'm talking about small place by
Academy
club standards. No, none of that
Olympia.
stuff exists. I'll remember the name of it a bit, but I played there with the Barracudas, so that was my only other time in Dublin. And then, now I go back and I'm playing, and then I've left there, and now I'm talking to Jim, and he's like, "Geez," he said, we never met in Dublin." I said, "No." And we started talking, and suddenly I got, "Well, will you come over to see us?" I'm like, "Okay, when?" He goes, "Like Saturday." I'm like, "Okay." So I ended up buying a plane ticket and then calling him at the Chateau Marmont. I got a ticket to Dublin. He goes, No, we're in Dublin, we're in London. I'm like, "Oh, okay." So changed it quickly. He goes, "Well, how much was the ticket?" So I told him. He goes, No, we'll pay it. I said, "Okay." So I got on a plane, no sleep, working on I'm sitting at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, like for long enough. And I didn't sleep, and I ended up getting there after 36 hours. Picked up a tape to watch something, went to Went to a hotel in London, waited till about 7 p.m. and then was brought into a room with Daniel and Patsy Pollock and Jim. And we sort of improv for 45 minutes. And then on my way out the door, Daniel collared me and said, listen, I know you're very tired. I was like, yeah. He said, but you're a good actor, and it's yours if you want it. And we're like, okay. And then Jim said, okay, see you Monday. I'm like, what the hell's going on? And I end up having to call back upstairs from downstairs going, did I get the job? And they were like, fuck off and go to bed. Of course
I'll see you Monday.
I was out of my brain. I was so tired. And that's began the process of that. And then going back to Dublin as an actor and seeing all the people I knew as extras. So half the people were in the extras queue in the morning. I was walking past Kilmainham Hospital outside. And it was just the weirdest thing. You know, I was walking down the street and Leslie Dowdall's face pops up from behind a hat and says, hey, Mark, how you doing? I'm like, it's like you never leave, you know?
Yeah.
So, but I was sober when I went back, and it was an extraordinary experience. Then I went back for the premiere at the Savoy, which was mind blowing to move from one circle to another circle. And I was like, you know, it was an incredible experience, and that was fantastic. And I've been playing, but I wasn't playing drums anymore because I didn't play sober. It sort of occurred to me that I needed to go back at some point, and I didn't realize it would be 30 years. I thought it was like 10 years or so. Well, I haven't been back in a while. I should go back. And so I was doing a gig in England, and I decided, fuck it, I'll just go over to Dublin. So I went and stayed at whatever it is, the Westbury, the Westin, it's now College Green, right next door to Trinity. And I walked around Dublin for 2 days and was like, oh my God, it's changed. It's so different. Because everybody I knew had sold up and moved on, you know, with the house prices booming and everything else. And it was fascinating to see a country whose main gross national product was emigration, now being an immigrant country, which it never was, and trying to work itself out of how that works and how Dublin now works in that situation. And it was fascinating to me. I didn't get to go to the country, but it was a culture shock. It was a massive culture shock. And then, you know, cut to last year, I was playing with Tricky MC with Billy and Paul Corella, and so we played. We played Thomas House. I haven't played a gig that small since like 1979. So we played Thomas House, and it was just a constant culture shock to be going around Ireland and seeing, like, being in the North Side with a guy that owns Thomas House explaining to me all the differences of what was going on, and then going up to Belfast on the train, which was the most hysterical thing I've ever done in my entire life, was lugging 250 pounds of gear up the shut down escalator at Connolly station.
Rookie mistake, taking the train equipment.
But yeah, because you know, they fucked all the trolleys into the Liffey, like probably 1974. So there's no way to get up there. So at 5:30 in the morning, I'm trying to get the first train up because I've also got a convention in Belfast, right? So I'm going to go do the convention in Belfast. The band's coming up later in the day, and then I'm going to go play Voodoo in Belfast. So it was a comedy of errors. You know, I get up, I lug all my gear up to two fellas there. Yeah, well done. You know, no help. So, well, where do I get the Belfast train? This is where you go into that room over there. And I'm like, I'm going, because it's the throwback to the days when it used to be a border control. So there's a room, and you're kept in there for some reason. You know, in the old days when they used to check trains and do all that stuff. So I was having this massive culture shock of like, I'm like, so is there a border? Do I have to? No, there's no border. It's just like you get on the train and you get there.
God bless you. You sounded like such a tourist.
I did. I'm not a tourist, which is the weirdest thing. I guess I was a political tourist at the time. So I get in there, get all my gear in there, I'm dripping with sweat. 7:10 train. They check the train. They go, it's not working. So they come in and say, terribly sorry. Ladies and gentlemen, terribly sorry, but we're going to go from platform 7. Now, I've only seen 6 platforms at Connolly. I'm like, where the fuck is platform 7? They said, well, it's about, you go down there, down the stairs, across the thing, blah, blah, up the other side, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. So I start pulling everything over. Everybody passes me. I finally get up the ramp on platform 7, dripping, carrying a suitcase,
Drum
a
kit.
flight case, a cymbal case, and a backpack. And there's no way to juggle these things, right? So I'm dragging along as I get up that quarter-mile ramp up to platform 7. A guy turns around and says, ladies and gentlemen, terribly sorry, we're going from platform 3.
Oh, fuck that. I'd give up.
No, I just looked in his face and went, it's like, it wasn't me. I didn't do it. I'm like, I don't care. Some fella goes like, you want a hand? I'm like, sure. I don't care if he nicked it at that point. It was like,
yeah, at that point,
stuff down. So I got down to platform 3, got on the train. Some girl sitting in my seat. I don't care at that point. I'm just sort of taking it all in. I just sat opposite her and glared at her and then I get an announcement. Terribly sorry, due to, pigeon shitting on the line, we're going to be stopping at Newry and there'll be replacement bus service. I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake. So I get out of Newry. It's quite a nice little station in Newry. So I'm up in Newry and I'm like, it's all on one level. I'm like, I'm happy. This is one level. I can drag the stuff out to get to this bus. So I said, I went to the fellow, I said, where's the replacement bus? He said, well, you go up over the bridge.
Someone did not want you going. I'll tell you that much.
I go, there's an elevator. The elevator's about 3 feet wide. It's the smallest elevator you've ever seen in your life, right? The lift is tiny. So I go up to the elevator and there's 2 old biddies and an old fellow in there. And they're just looking at the ceiling. And there's no room. So I'm polite and I wait. 2 minutes goes by. I'm like, what's going on? And another 2 minutes goes by. And then suddenly the door closes slowly. I'm like, okay. So I step up to the elevator, give them a minute, press the button, the door opens. They're still in the elevator.
Jesus.
All they did was look at me. I was like, you okay? Do you need something? And they're like, no. And they just step out and walk past me. No reason whatsoever. They just stood in the elevator for 5-10 minutes. So I get my gear in, get up over the bridge, hoik it over the bridge. Where's the replacement bus service? A big blue double-decker bus, brand new. And there's a young guy there, and he's like, oh, for fuck's sake, I'll give you a hand. So he brings all my stuff out, kneels the bus down, we grab all my stuff on. He goes, right, let's go. It was just me and him.
The whole bus ride, just the 2 of you?
He was Irish, which is, of course, I come from a time when you don't say where are you from in certain areas in the north. It's just traditionally not something we ever did because it used to lead to interesting conversations or dangerous conversations. But he knew who I was, and he knew who I was from In the Name of the Father, and knew who I was from Light a Big Fire, which is really funny. Then he knew who I was from Supernatural. His wife was coming to see us in Belfast the next day. And of course, the gig's not actually in Belfast. I didn't know this. So I arrive, he drops me off on the bus. He's there, he waits for me to do a picture. And I say, come to the show, we'll do whatever. So he come to Voodoo. He said, oh, I fucking loved it. So as I'm driving up the road to Newry, first of all, the road from Newry is new. I've never seen it. Right. I'm like, wow. And it's a beautiful, crisp morning. It's beautiful out. So I'm literally driving in the north for the first time in 30 years. Going like, holy shit, this is just gorgeous. And the vibe is amazing. And we arrive and there's nothing weird going on, which I'm not used to. And I'm like having a massive culture shock because he's filling me in on changes and what kids are doing and what schools they're not going to anymore and what they're not doing and the way things are changing and what they're not, where nobody's playing anymore and what nobody's joining in with anymore and how they're trying to move on, and start talking about the Brexit stuff and whatever and the complications involved therein. It was fascinating to me, having been involved, somewhat politically in the 80s. I get picked up and I get driven by the Monopoly guy straight to the gig. And of course, there's 18,000 people trying to get into this gig on a country road. I don't know where the hell I am. I'll explain in a second where I went. So they're driving down the wrong side of the road. They get me there and whatever. I said, I need a cigar. So I literally stopped, got out, had a cigar, looked up, and I'm at the Maze prison. I'm like, that's the Maze. And that's the Red Hospital building. And I'm like, this is so fucking weird. This is just beyond straight. And of course, the airstrip, the rendition airstrip and stuff. And my head has always been aware of what was happening in the 80s. And now it's 2021 4, and I'm like, oh my God, something's really strange going on here that I've not seen. And the fella comes up from the door, same age as me. He's like, it's gonna be really strange for you. I'm like, it is. And he goes, what do you think? I'm like, well, apparently somebody won. It's because I'm standing somewhere where I would never have been within 10 miles of.
Yeah.
And there's 18,000 people coming to a gig in a cow shed next to the Maze prison, and I had no idea what's going on. And we started talking, and he had a brother that was in the Maze, and he's explained to me, they're not going to do anything to the Maze. They're just going to leave it. I'm like, of course, that makes sense. And now I'm in total culture shock. I'm in absolute culture shock. And it was amazing. I was there, and everybody my age kept coming up to me going, so must be really fucking strange for you. And I'm like,
and you're there with the cigar. Yeah.
No, and I'm just going, yeah. And they're like, what do you think? It's always, what do you think? What do you think of the difference? And I was amazingly impressed. And the other side of it, which really got me, was none of the kids knew what those buildings were.
Mm.
And that, I was like, as a person, doesn't matter what my political opinions are or whatever. I was never part of violent solution to anything, but I was always a believer in political solution in a place that I loved and couldn't understand. You know, we tried to tie things together with music, and we tried to tie things together with film. We tried to tie things together with television. You know, you can make Father Ted, and you can make all these wonderful things over the years, and some even better things, and some crazy ass things, because of just people had enough of this insane oppressive state that existed, you know. And I'm just watching it, you know, it's chipping away and it's falling away. It's atrophying and dying. Those old days are dying. And there was a lot of people, you know, that were very happy to give me, you know, tell me stories about the flags and the fun. And I was like, oh my God, the place, it's changed. And then I do the gig. I'm very grateful. And then I go to Voodoo and go play the concert next night. And I'm used to walking through a turnstile on that street. I'm like, what the fuck? You know, there's no turnstile.
How long has it been since you've been there? 30 years?
30 years.
Well,
I was like, what, 28 years or something. I was like, okay, I'm really, and everyone's just laughing at me. Everybody's just laughing at me because they know who I am. And they're like, what do you think?
and you're like, I'm lost.
I'm like, I'm happy. So that was the amazing culture shock of that. And it's amazing that music brought me to that. But Supernatural brought me back to Belfast. And, you know, I'd shot in the, whatever it was, the Cornmarket back in the old days there. I did a music video in there. If you look up Light a Big Fire, the video shot in the city centre at night inside the turnstiles. The video for Mr. Twilight. Yeah, I mean, we were very political band in that way. As much, we were banned under Section 31 of the Broadcasting Act several times.
Yeah, but so they were banning everything right, left, and centre back then.
Yeah, but that ours was for lyrics. So Garrett Fitzgerald showed up to a gig and had to leave due to content. I mean, it was amazing stuff. And then the other side of that is I've been in Dublin Castle with the president, the Taoiseach, and, you know, for the premiere of In the Name of the Father. So I've seen the different ends of it, you know. But the thing I missed was I walked up, you know, walked up Grafton Street, and the only thing that was still there was Abracadabra and Brown Thomas. And I was like, wow. And there's money around the corner, George's Street. There's a bit of money there, and there's starting. But it's changed a lot. It has changed a lot. It'll find itself again. It always does. I don't know. I kind of miss it. I kind of miss, you know, sitting next to Patrick Kavanagh at the canal.
I mean, like, at least Dublin you can say a lot for Dublin, but it's thriving in comparison to other places. Like Limerick.
Yeah, of course.
Oh my God. The Limerick city, it's like a ghost town. Everything is boarded up. Everything is shutting down because rent is too high. I mean, I used to work in William Street, which is like...
I know.
You know William Street?
Yeah, of course.
I used to work in a place, just like a clothing shop, and they were there for years before I ever went there, and saw the decline start. Saw all the shops around us like closing, and I was like, that's not going to happen us though, right? Because it's an independently run shop. It was owned by a couple, and they were like, no, like, we should be good. It should be fine. And they ended up having to close.
They couldn't afford the rent anymore.
No, and they won't lower the rent. And then like the shopping centres that like are on the outskirts of the city, so like the Crescent and stuff.
The one on the Ring Road. the one on the ring road.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah, I know.
present.
I was last time I drove there, a kid on the biggest horse I've ever seen in my life went past me. Like a massive horse,
I
like the
mean,
biggest horse you ever seen, like a Belgian freaking horse.
you're in Limerick, man. Yeah,
Right, riding round the ring road.
yeah.
And he's got to been 8 years old.
How long ago was this now?
1980 something,
Oh, yeah.
early 80s. It was an amazing time. But yet, it changes, and what it changes when the money comes back for different reasons, and they're doing the best with tax breaks for companies and stuff. But it will change. Greed doesn't work very well, you know. But I love it. I'll always love it. It's an amazing. Oh my God, that was funny. Timothy Dalton calling me.
That is the loudest ringtone I've ever heard. Thanks for that jump scare.
You're welcome.
Jesus, I thought something was after collapsing in your background. But yeah, like it's been a bit, I guess, since you've really done like the tour circuit in terms of like playing, but like music here. The music scene is still thriving. It is still there. But like I'm in a band myself, and I'm actually a drummer.
That I didn't know.
I'm a drummer, and it's my brother's band actually. They were a band before me. It was Sam and Brandon, formed back in like 21, I think it was. They're called Laetarian. And they needed a drummer like last year. And my mom jokingly brought up like she could do it. She used to play drums when she was a teenager. And it was like, oh, very haha. And then my brother was like, seriously, you gonna order a kit like or what? And I was like, all right. So but like organizing gigs and booking gigs and stuff, it's hard, man. They don't really want local bands. It's more of a getting bigger bands like states and stuff in.
But that's how it works. That's how it always works in Ireland. It's just the local bands were better.
Mm.
You know, like my band opened for ZZ Top at the RDS. Springsteen had played. Like Lord Henry Moncharles just died, which I saw. Surprised at that. So he used to run Slane. Slane was his house.
Yeah, I saw that. Was it yesterday or the day before?
He was an amazing guy. I remember him really well. But you know, he'd have U2 play. That was, you know, the Slane gig at U2. But everybody, you know, those were the things. Is we would go play the Lark of the Lee. So we'd have 30,000 people down in Cork.
Yeah.
You know, I couldn't get arrested in England. Be lucky to be playing, you know, Town and Country in Kentish Town. But there was always a local support. But it's just because the communities aren't there as the way they were. You know what I mean? Everybody lived where their mum lived and where their grandmother lived, and
yeah,
that was the thing. And now they've all sold out because the prices got so high. They might as well move out. So the community is not living local. They're renting local.
Yeah.
You don't live at your family house,
yeah,
you know, in an area or whatever, in which case you know all the people around you, and there's local bands and there's local food.
Knows everyone, and yeah.
And that will have to change for that to be, you know, once you gentrified Temple Bar, it was over in Dublin. It was the weirdest thing ever. I went out, the doorman who was my age went, like, don't wear that watch going out there. I'm like, why? He said, it's fucking rough over there. And it was always rough over there, but I knew everybody, you know, and it'll change. It will change. Youth changes it. It's a fascinating thing for me. Music brings people together, and art brings people together in a way that politics never can. It's the way things change.
It's the hope. It's the goal.
Yeah.
And the hope.
But that's the thing. I mean, we export people. In Ireland, you export people, you know. When I was there, 50% of the population was under 26 years old. But I do love it. It's just an extraordinary place. It's a beautiful place. It's the prettiest place on earth. It really is.
And you're talking about Limerick, of course, specifically.
Once you get away from the ring road and the concrete, Limerick always reminded me of Milton Keynes.
Which?
It always reminded me of Milton Keynes.
Limerick does?
Yeah, because of the amount of concrete that was built in the 70s. From the 50s to the 70s. But it's the heart of all those cities is amazing. You know, playing Cork City Hall and the Savoy at Limerick with those giant curtains. They had massive curtains, like 40, 50 foot high curtains.
I never those things. They were all closed before our time. My nana was actually telling us stories recently. She went to see Tin Lizzy there.
Yeah.
I was like, why did Tin Lizzy play Limerick?
Of course they did. They played the same circuits as we played. So you had to go play, you know, the Atlantic Ballroom Ballybunion and Caesar's Palace, the Blue Lagoon in Sligo. There's so many places. But we would have to play, and then it'd either be a disco afterwards,
Yeah, after
or
concerts, yeah.
or the Atlantic. There was like the roller disco beforehand, which is
Before?
hysterical. Yeah, which was just hysterical. But how long are you playing for, lads? You know, it was the we used to have to play 2 hours at least. Yeah, playing cow sheds behind. It was amazing.
Well,
But
people were rollerblading through the crowd.
well, you know, we occasionally get stuff. We're the owner of car FZF329. Please go to the parking lot because your
You're
lights are
blocking
on
an exit.
in the middle of a show. But in those days, you used to, you know, you'd be playing up in Strabane or Glenties or up anywhere, and it'd be like you're playing the anthem, and you're like, which anthem are you referring to?
What do you want?
But I mean, I've been in more. But the funniest thing is, I've been in more partisan places. I mean, we went on tour with the Pogues. Light a Big Fire went on tour with the Pogues right after they did Straight to Hell movie. So we back from Hell tour the Back from Hell tour. So I used to play with the Pogues a lot. So I do all the encores and stuff. It was fun. And but I remember playing. The strangest place I ever played was the Barrowlands in Glasgow with the Pogues. You know, I walked out on stage to "Can you hear Rangers sing?" No, no. Can you hear Rangers sing? Because I can't hear the fucking thing. I was laughing my ass off. And then ooh ah up the rah. So I told the singer, I used to play with a 40-foot Story player behind my drum kit. Just so you full disclosure. So Plough and Stars being the original Workers' Flag of Ireland. We were unannounced on the tour because it sold out completely, so it didn't matter. So we played the whole tour. So I told the singer to go out. So Tom, I said, say who we are, where we're from, and announce the first song because you're going to get killed if you don't.
Yeah.
So he said, we're Light a Big Fire and 5,600 people, which I think the capacity is 2,800, but the Bouncers sold 2,800 extra tickets. On a sprung floor in Glasgow in November, I think it was. It might have been November. It was either November or February. It was cold. And he said, we're Light a Big Fire. And the audience went, fuck off, fuck off. And I had fucking coins thrown and like hitting behind ice cubes. Fucking everything. It was ridiculous. And he said, we're from Dublin. Then the roof came off and we just played the rest of the set. So it was kind of brilliant. You never give up. You just keep going.
Yeah, I mean that's easy to say when you've been successful in it. You know what I mean? We're still at the stage.
Excuse me.
Down doors.
I was living in a basically it was like a squat in Rathmines on no money. No, it was £30 a week. £30 a week, about $50 a week back then.
But look at the stories you got from it.
Oh yeah, well I survived them. That's the thing. But if I hadn't survived them, as a lot of my friends didn't, you know. But the glory, there wasn't that much glory for anybody, apart from you two, I guess. And the backlash was always wonderful. Seeing on the train bridge, trouble with God is he thinks he's Bono. It's like there was always this, oh, you went to America, did you?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Oh, Jeremy's talking like a Yank now. Do you hear him?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I kind of love that. It's the tall poppy syndrome thing. But I think it's the most special place in the world. And it sort of inveigles your heart. And if you find a way in a place, and what's nice is to be in the North and see a lot of people going, we just don't do that anymore. That's not what we're going to do anymore. And seeing kids going, that's my parents' generation's bullshit, not mine. You know, my grandparents' generation's bullshit, not mine. And it's getting very difficult to keep a sectarian attitude of oppression. And goddamn, I mean, the rate of female alcoholism in the North and the rate of sexual abuse and mental health issues was absolutely extraordinary when I was over there. And I'm seeing it change, you know, and I'm seeing it. I used to think, of course, like a lot of romantic Irish connected people, that it was, you know, never forget. And I think it's more along the lines of time to forget, but learn from, you know. So it was kind of amazing. But yeah, it was amazing times. It was incredible times. And you know, I mean, to go back to have these weird interstitial moments with Ireland. You know, In the Name of the Father, I think outgrossed Jurassic Park in Ireland. and it was an important film. It really was a sort of bookend to the behaviour of the British police and judiciary and government in the 70s. You know, the result of what was happening. You know, with the idea of, you know, one bomb on the mainland's worth 100 in Ulster. So, but that's no, you didn't grow up with that. You grew up with the product of that. And that's why I think it works. I think the reason why I feel so good about it is that that's not the first thing you think about. When you think about that. You think about, first thing you think about playing in Belfast is whether you get to play the Voodoo Rooms or not, right? Whether you get to play Voodoo. It's a great gig.
How are we going to get the kid up there?
Yeah, up the stairs.
Yeah. Because our bass player has this amp. This amp is half the fucking size of me, and it takes two of them to move it. And we're recording at the moment, and for some reason they're recording with the amp. So we have to bring the amp to the recording studio, and I'm like, oh my God. And that's just within Limerick. You know,
I'm with you. I'm with you. We were lugging gear about till whatever time in the morning. Kind of fun. But nowadays I can afford to hire somebody to help me.
Can't relate. It's me, my snare, and usually the hi-hat. That's what I carry. Anything else the boys can carry them. I don't care if you drop them down the stairs. The hi-hat and the snare, they're holy. I got Sweet K's recently. My cymbals, my hi-hat Sweet K's, and I'm like, no one touches them. Okay. Try being in the back, lads.
K Sweets are rather lovely. There's you know, I'm a Zildjian artist, right?
I read something about that online. I was going to ask you, what's your loadout look like?
Well, I'm a DW artist. You can go look on DW. I'm a Remo artist. I'm a Vic Firth artist. I've been a Zildjian artist for a long, long time. And I was actually one of the few drummers that ever played with K's, because Charlie Watts played with K's. So I got some interesting drum stuff. I have a studio and a bunch of stuff. That's one of the benefits of having done something for a long time. But as DW, Remo, Vic Firth, Audix, Roland, Fender.
So everything really, a bit of everything.
Well, I mean, I did it for, you know, I remember the days when I couldn't afford to replace a cymbal.
Yeah.
You know, now it's like, which set of what cymbals do I want to take where, which is a lovely privilege, you know. And then, you know, my ear, Jerry Harvey for ears and Audix for microphones. I've got a lot of wonderful connections that way. But I'm fiercely loyal to those companies. You know, it's like, that's one of the things, I guess, not having anything back in the day brought me, which is, if somebody's willing to support me, I'm willing to support them. And you have to be in that
loyalty.
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating, the stuff. I'm trying to think of what. So, hold on. Oh. So, I mean, life is good.
Oh, no fucking way.
Yeah, for years.
I had no idea. What are they?
No. I use a very interesting HD9, which is a Hickory SD9, but it's an HD9, but it's picked super light, and they're all within a gram or so of each other. So they are, you know, a massive big deal. It's the greatest drumstick manufacturer in the world, as far as I'm concerned. Always has been.
That's sick, and that must have been massive for you, man.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, you could always get them, and you could get things printed, and you could get done. But to have Vic Firth do your stick,
yeah,
you know, it's like it's a big deal. But like Remo had just done because I'm gonna be playing in Nashville with Dick Jr. So Remo's now sending me. I get today my new front bass drum skins with Dick Jr. and the Volunteers printed on them. That's the kind of cool thing, you know. It's like, so, you know, having shit lying around. I mean, this is not where I keep my stuff, but you know, it's like stuff just there.
Yeah, it's just bits and pieces. Oh man, I could show you mine, but I can't because I'd have to move the camera. I literally. Oh, that's nice. What inch is that? Is that 20 or 22?
It's a 22. I have a lot of 22s, and then I've got the important stuff.
Oh my God. You have a setup literally just like me.
course they do.
That's rad. So what?
Difference is they're all me though, which is really embarrassing.
Oh, no way. I didn't catch that. Is everything there you?
Pretty much, apart from Cantonar and skulls.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's nice for some. You're like, yeah, here's my sticks, literally. Here's my bookcase of me.
No, but it's not. It's just that I remember when I couldn't afford
Yeah.
to buy it.
No, dude, that is absolutely
I can
awesome.
remember when I didn't have that luxury, and there's 96 pairs appear.
I think the sticks that I'm playing with at the moment, they're my absolute favorite and they're destroyed. Oh, well,
What?
literally destroyed. They were silver coated. They're I know they're 5As. What was the fucking
Who
name?
make them?
Zildjian.
So they are Vicks. They're just silver Vicks. They're made
Destroyed.
by the same. They're made by the same company who make my sticks.
Yeah, I think all of my sticks are Zildjian and symbols as well. The sweet Ks. I also have the Planet Zs, which I don't like speaking ill of anything, but I have to say it's like trying to beat a bin. Planet Z.
Well, yeah, that's not one. It's a cheaper line of symbol.
We're getting by. We're getting by on them.
So what's the next convention I'm going to see you at?
I don't know. You're in the States, aren't you? You're doing a lot of
No,
stateside.
we're doing. I'm doing the Monopoly one in London.
When's that? August?
Yeah.
You're not doing Dublin?
No, not this year. I'll do it next year.
Oh yeah. Oh, you love Dublin, do you? And you're not even doing Dublin Comic Con. Hmm.
I did a year ago.
Yeah, well, it's not this year, is it, Mark?
I was
Well,
just going to say I'll bring you some sticks. That's what I was going to say to you.
that would be sick. Yeah, it
Sticks
was
are fun.
actually you did Dublin last year.
It was
Last
like last year.
last summer, I think it was, because I was actually supposed to go. I had tickets, but last year was one of those kick you in the arse years. Both of my grandparents passed away within like 3 weeks.
I'm sorry.
But we had tickets. Completely slipped my mind until I got the email. Like, do you know that you get an email the night before that's like, oh, doors are at whatever time, whatever. And I was there to my brother going, shit. So I can't give you much shit, to be fair. I kind of bailed on you last time you were.
So what's the tattoos? Come and explain the tattoos.
Where are we starting?
Yeah, we start on the arms. So what you got? You got the handprint. I like that.
Thank you, because do you realize the amount of times I have to explain to people it's not fucking bacon? You got rashers? Do you have rashers on your arm? I've got to the stage now. I go, yeah. Why? Because I fucking love rashers.
Well, yeah. I mean, there is that.
Another very embarrassing story.
Los Angeles.
I dreamt my whole life of going to LA, right? Finally
Mhm.
made it happen. And I went to this tiny little tattoo joint, like 20 minutes away from, I was staying at the Roosevelt. So it was 20 minutes away from that in an Uber. It's all I know. And I was like, I want to get the LA symbol because it's been my dream to come here, right? I got the LA symbol, loved it, was like, went out that night we went to the whiskey and all I wanted to do was see the Viper. The Viper has been so romanticized throughout history that I was like, I have to see
The
it.
Viper Rooms.
Yeah,
The Viper Rooms. Yeah.
yeah. Just across from the whiskey.
Yeah. No, I used to drink there before when it was called the Underground. I used to have a London Underground symbol in it, and I've known Johnny and Sal for 35, 40 years. So I remember when they bought it and took it over.
I was like, I have to see it.
There was a great AA meeting in that bar for years at
You're being
noon.
sarcastic.
No, it was a great AA meeting I used to go to.
In a bar?
Yeah.
What was that, like exposure therapy? Get you used to like
No,
being around it? Or?
nobody was there. None of the bottles. You know where the bar is on them as you
Oh,
come in.
oh.
It was like just on the floor in front of the bar. So the bar was on my left all the time. But yeah, nobody ever touched anything.
That's so unusual.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't an AA meeting when I went there. It was it was during the day, right? And I tried the door and it wouldn't open. And this was at like 1 p.m. I'm Irish. I'm Irish. I didn't know the pubs don't open till like 9 or 10 o'clock over there. So I was like, I also was swinging out of the door to the body shop, trying to get in there as well. And they were also locked. So we went back to the Viper anyway, later on in the day. And I was like, they have to be open. Google says they're open. They got to be fucking open. So I pulled the door and it opens. And I'm like, fucking finally. Walk in and it's totally dark. Right? And I'm like, okay, trying to squint. You know the way the stage is to your right as you go in?
Yeah.
there's a fella there with like a load of cables hanging off him, and he's like rolling up stuff or putting down something, and he's like, "Can I help you?" I was like, "Yeah." I just want to have a look around, maybe have a drink. And he was like, "You're gonna have to ask the boss." And I'm there like, "Okay, who's the boss?" So he points to this booth, but there's these two kids. They're around my age, slightly younger. And I was like, "Okay, are you joking?" Because I'm terrible at picking up on things. I'm like, "You fucking with me?" And he was like, "No, no, no, it's his birthday. There's a birthday party on." I was like, "Sick. All right, fine." So I go over to him and I'm like, "Hello, birthday boy. Happy birthday. Is it all right if I like sit down? Like just chill for a bit?" And he's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. Same as you." He picks up on the accent instantly. Are you okay for time, by the way? I don't want to be like boring you or keeping you here if
I'm
you're.
fine. Come on.
So he turns around to me, same thing, notice the accent. And he was like, "No, like I have heard of Limerick. My math teacher is from Limerick." And I was like, "No fucking way. I've never met anyone outside of like Ireland who knows where Limerick is." Cool. So we're yapping, we're talking. And he's like, "So why are you here?" And I was like, "I've dreamt about this bar since I was like a child, okay? I just want to see it, just want to like experience it a little bit." And he was so sweet, so nice. And he was like, "Of course, I'll get my guy to get you some shirts." And I was like, "Yeah, do you like the Viper t-shirt? You know, the black t-shirt with the white writing?" And he was like, "Do you want to go look downstairs at like the VIP rooms and stuff?" And I was like, "Yeah, cool." So I'm downstairs and my fella's taking a picture of me by like the bar in the VIP room. And I'm there like, and the guy that's like giving us the tour steps out of the room and I hear him on the phone and he's like, "No, it's closed tonight. We're having a birthday party for Cash." And I'm there thinking, cool, such an LA name. And then he goes, "Yeah, Cash Hudson." And I'm like, "Hudson? How do I know that name? How do I know that name? How do I know that name?" And then I hear him go, "Yeah, Slash's kid." I nearly saw the face of God inside that VIP room. I was like, which one was Cash? Which one was I yapping at? And I mean, I was like full annoying tourist. But I go back upstairs and I'm like, then I'm like, I just want to leave because I'm Irish and I'm sunburnt and I'm sweaty and I'm like, this is a party scene. I'm not good in that environment. So I go up again to Cash and I'm like, "Look, lovely meeting you, man. Happy birthday, whatever." We get talking briefly again and he goes, "Oh, did you get some tattoo work done? Did you get some ink done?" Because I had like a wrap on it. And I was like, "Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah." And he went, "Oh, so you're a big fan?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've wanted to come here since forever. It's gorgeous." This is like a fucking team logo. Apparently it's like, what is it, the
Dodgers.
Lakers? Okay.
Dodgers.
But there you go. He said it to me, and at that point I was too embarrassed to admit that I didn't know. And I was like, big fan, big fan. My dad raised me on him. And he was like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna catch a game or some shit like that." And I was like, tickets for next Wednesday. Goodbye. It was lovely talking to you." And it's like I could see it dawn on him. I didn't even know if they were playing. And I'm like, "We gotta go to my fella. We gotta leave like now." So I have a logo for some team. So that's
It's a
that
good
one.
team. It's the Dodgers. They're a big team.
What did they play?
Baseball.
Baseball. All right.
So
So
that's why the baseball caps have LA on them that look like that.
well, I thought that was just people like loving LA and wanting to put
No,
it onto
when
their
you see a
head.
B, you see the B, it's Boston. You see the big C, it's Cubs, but that's the Cubs. The C would be the Cubs from Chicago.
To sport.
Yeah, but it's actually more than that. There aren't usually well, LA you got one real team, but in California you got so many teams.
Mm,
So San Francisco, when you see SF, it's a Giants hat.
okay.
But you wear it because you like
You love the
it's not.
team.
No, you wear it because you love the city.
So I wasn't wrong getting it because I love
No,
the
you're
city.
not. I'm trying to tell you, you did
Yeah.
fine.
Thank you. Because I've had other
But it,
Americans point it out to me and be like,
but it's a representation of Los Angeles.
"Yeah, I have a bunch of stuff scattered. I have pumpkin, love Halloween,
Yeah,
the hand. We have
bacon.
this is for, Interview with the Vampire,
Yeah,
the new AMC show,
yeah.
just taken over my life. Made me go back and read all the books. I've like discovered the world of Anne Rice where I had never gone before. Stunning. This is for a season that isn't even out yet. They're working on season 3 at the moment. And the logo was put out. And I was like, the show is my life, got it tattooed. And then I hope the season will be good. I have faith. Yeah, bunch of stuff. Bunch of
Hold
stuff.
on. Have you got a fried egg on your upper arm there?
That is a Cherokee Rose. I
I
am
know
pale.
to
The
the
white
rashes to the
does
bacon.
not hold on pale skin. You are, it's not even your fault. The amount of people that ask me,
Yeah, I mean I've got
"Do you
pale
have
skin.
white though?"
Yeah, I have some. It doesn't look like that. I was just making fun of you.
You're not the first one to say it. And every time I go, "Yeah, I love eggs." And then I get to cook bacon and eggs. I'm like, I'm a breakfast girly. What can I say?
full Irish.
Yeah, the rest is just like band related stuff. 21 Pilots,
Mm-hmm.
favorite band. Josh Dunn is the drummer, in my opinion.
Gosh, he's a lovely guy.
You've met him?
Yeah, everybody knows everybody in drumming. So, like, the Zildjian Live stuff. Remember the
Yeah.
Zildjian Live?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's me and Max sitting in the front row, me and my son, if you look closely. No. There's a lot of great players. But, like, we all kind of know each other from the jobbingness of what it is that we do. So, and we're all connected in the weirdest ways.
I have his sticks up in the background. I won't play with them. He's 4 different lines, 4 different sets that you can buy. And after annihilating the silver ones, I was like, I just won't play with them.
I'll have to get you a pair of mine now.
And I won't even play with them. I'll put them up on the shelf.
No, you play with them. I'll get you another pair.
Yeah, one for playing and one for the shelf. Yeah, the rest are just band related stuff like we have Linkin Park because I was raised.
Another great band.
I was raised on them. They're my mom's favorite band from the age of like 5 years old. Saturday mornings I'd be shaking my ass to Linkin Park.
How old are you?
28.
Amazing.
What?
No, I'm just thinking of bands and culture and generational stuff. I mean, because there was so little going on in music in the 80s that all the bands that were in Ireland got signed. Every band in Ireland got signed. It was an amazing time because the music was better, and they hadn't been being successful for a long time, and so they were ready. So when they were signed, it was suddenly like the energy level was just so huge because music was dead. So my oldest is a record producer and a player. He just produced and wrote Something Beautiful for Miley.
No fucking way.
Yeah, he's 25. So he wrote Something Beautiful. He produced it. He also produced on End of the World and about 4 or 5 other tracks on the album. He did the last record too. So the first record he ever made he has 2 Grammy nominations for, which is mind blowing to me.
Jesus.
But that's not what he loves.
I was just
what he does.
Is that what he wants to do?
It's weird. He comes from like drum and bass to massive R&B to like everything from Dilla to Fela Kuti. It's like his musical stuff is amazing. But yeah, he's doing it, and it's a very different world now. There's no money in what you're doing. The millions and millions of streams that he's had of what he does don't amount to what I would sell when I was selling on Rough Trade and sold 40,000, records or something. We had 40,000 pounds of revenue.
It's funny that you bring that up because I remember Chester once saying in some documentary they did that he's like he put months into writing, conceptualizing, recording a single. Like your soul goes in. At the end of the day, someone can buy it for less than a cup of coffee, and you make even less off of that again.
Snoop used to say, what's an album cost? $9.99. Sell 10 million of them. That's a number.
Yeah.
Now it doesn't make any sense anymore. I remember the first thing he wrote was on Miley's last record, Endless Summer Vacation, and I was like, 60 million, 70 million streams. I say, this coffee's more expensive.
And I can't even conceptualize a number that big.
Well, it doesn't make sense. I mean, if you think about popularity and weirdness, like I have Instagram followers, and I've always been really organic with that. I've never done anything that monetizes it or does anything that way, which is really smart, I think, because it sort of means I can keep it as what it is. So I show my loyalty to those who support me on tours and the rest of that stuff. It's very important to do that, But I have like a couple of million followers. But I remember looking back at IMDb and seeing my first 2 credits. It's you don't lose it. Fame is not the same thing anymore. It's just not. It's too easy and too fleeting. Being really good at something is tremendously sexy by comparison. The trick is to be better than everybody else and believe that you can be better than everybody else. And ultimately they catch on. If you get lucky, you find a Paul McGuinness, or you find a Paul McGuinness that will mortgage his house to put you on tour. That's the reason why Paul McGuinness gets 1/5 of everything they make, is because he mortgaged his fucking house so they can go to America. There's a reason, it's like it's not just taken. I remember when Louis Walsh was the only guy you could get PAs from in Dublin
Yep.
back in the day. I actually had to call Lytton Lane to try and get a drum kit sorted out for me, and they told me to go find another fella called Colin in Dublin, who he's the best. Well, you don't have that problem when you're playing over there, but I do. I need a kit.
Mm-hmm.
So DW provides drum kits for me. So there are DW kits all over the world, and I'll call London Drum Company. I'll call Simon at London Drum Company, and a drum kit arrives to spec, etc., etc. Right? That stuff is mind blowing to me. Right? That's crazy to me. But I actually called Lytton Lane, where I used to rehearse, and Paddy still runs Lytton Lane, and I'm like going, "Jeez, I haven't spoken to you in 30 odd years." He's like, "Yeah, how you doing, Mark? Good to hear from you." I'm like, Jesus Christ, some people have not changed.
Yeah.
But gear is an interesting thing. The trick is, not to go viral. The trick is to be better. I remember when Depeche Mode started, because I was on Rough Trade and Daniel Miller was running Mute Records, and he found Depeche Mode. So David's the same age as me. So I remember when they started. I remember all those bands when they started. Daniel Miller gave me a job with an electric drill, drilling a second hole in a 45 for a fictitious band called Non and Smegma. And I drilled a second hole in those, and he sold it so you could play it, or you could play it elliptically.
Yeah.
It was I remember all that stuff. I remember when The Cure started, Killing an Arab.
They're my brother's absolute.
Yeah, that was what got everybody started playing it. But I was playing in bands at that time. So I played with Robin Hitchcock, and Robin Hitchcock was the second psychedelic revival of England. So I was playing with Robin when I was 17.
Were you always into drums, or did you start with like guitar? Because usually,
no, I'm a drummer. I have a lot of guitars, but I am a drummer. I have a guitar that's made out of the Halfpenny Bridge. I actually have two.
How?
You didn't know about that?
No.
But
like, is this legal, or is this like rob a little bit and make a guitar for yourself kind of deal? Oh, she's beautiful.
That is a Fender Custom Shop master built guitar made from the Halfpenny Bridge.
Oh my God!
Well, it's called Irish Roots, and it's in tune. Jesus.
When was that
done? Well, the Wood Whisperer for Fender went up to Harland and Wolff, right? And I'm the only person in the world that has both the Telly and the Strat of this. Literally the only person in the world. My wife bought me this. But this is made by John Cruz, who no longer works for Fender, but he was the top master builder at Fender, right? So John Cruz is in a Lizzie tribute band. And he's the guy that did the Fender bass, the Lizzie bass. So he did the Phil Lynott bass and made those, the ones that were on sale. So the Wood Whisperer went up to Harland and Wolff, go see the fucking Titanic shit or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And they'd cut down the Halfpenny Bridge, which I used to cross every single day. My dad used to cross as a kid, and his dad used to cross as a kid. Like, my family's been in Ireland a long time. There's in St. Patrick's Protestant Cathedral is a stained glass window from my great-great-grandfather to his wife. So he was a landscape. He did half the parks for the Corpo and worked on Stephen's Green and did all that shit. So that's what my original family is. So I used to cross the Halfpenny Bridge, and Temple Bar was like the shittiest part of Dublin. It was like an extension of Moore Street. It was just like a shithole, cobblestones and rehearsal rooms. We all rehearsed over there. So we were there every day. And so the wood that used to go across was just old railway sleepers, but they were, of that size, and they were massive. It was built, when was it built? 1715, I think. Halfpenny Bridge was built 1715. It was originally the Wellington Bridge, because Wellington was from Dublin. And then it became the Halfpenny Bridge because you had to pay to cross it and do all that shit. But it used to be about 9,000 people a day crossed it, maximum. And then it got up to 90,000 once, and they were like, it's not going to sustain, the wood's not good. So they cut it down, sent it up to Harland and Wolff on a barge, and put steel in it. So the wood that was left over, there was some of it left over. Everyone had a little piece of it. It was like having a piece of the cross. Oh, there's a bit of Halfpenny Bridge. There was a load of pubs that like, piece of the Halfpenny Bridge. Right? It was just bullshit. And then the guy's like, "What's that?" And he goes, "Well, that's the wood. What's left of the wood from the Halfpenny Bridge." And it was like 2 sofas of wood. And he said, "I'll take it." And they were going to build the Edge cabinets or something out of it. And John Cruise was like, "Go fuck yourself. That's like one of the most important pieces of Irish history as far as music is concerned." You know, whatever Lynyrd sing, what was it? Oh, This Old Town. He's on the bridge. We cross that every day. That's the way you get to every rehearsal room and recording studio that was ever on.
Point A to B.
Yeah, exactly. So he decided to build guitars out of it. So I think in 17, he built a telly and a Strat, and like one of them had a 9-penny nail in it. It was an amazing looking thing. And I arrived on the Friday at NAMM, and I was like, Jesus Christ, that's made from the Halfpenny Bridge. And they're like, yeah. I said, I want it. So you can't. It's like he's 50 deep on orders, and he's only built 2 prototypes. And so, and he didn't bother building me. He had a 4-year waiting list to have guitars built by him at Fender. And I said, oh, whatever. So anyway, I didn't get a birthday present that year, next year. And what happened is my wife and Billy Siegel, who created himself the head of A&R at Fender, most amazing guy I know. He's a beautiful human being, wonderful guy. They got together, and the first people in the lottery to get those guitars to sell them whenever they got built agreed to flip it at wholesale back to my wife. So my wife bought that guitar, which is worth a fucking, I think the Edge has a Strat. I have the Strat and the telly. And the only person in the world that hasn't been built, he'd be like 8 guitars out of it. My dad, before he passed, knew it was being built. He never got to see it, but
I wouldn't even be holding it. She should be in a case.
No, it gets played, which is good. But it's 205-year-old pine, African blackwood, beautiful roasted maple neck. I mean, it's a ridiculous thing. It's signed by John. He's like, "You're never going to sell it." I said, "No, I can't fucking sell that." And the Edge would buy it off me in a minute.
I would have given that up. You can't get something like that back.
You can't find them. Because he only made about 10 guitars, right? 8 or 10 guitars. So there's the Strat.
I think I prefer the Strat.
Well, it's a 60 hardtail. It's got no whammy bar. But it's actually in tune. Hasn't been touched in about 2 months. But yeah, you could buy a car with those.
Probably buy half a house with those.
Yeah, probably. But that's so my wife's always trying to find things to give me for Christmas and birthdays, because if I like something, I usually go and buy it myself. So I have a Cantona shirt, a Skull shirt. There's a George Best shirt in my bathroom.
I was going to ask, do you have anything that's absolutely precious that you own? I love it when I meet someone like me that's a collector, because I don't meet them that often. Usually people are like, yeah, it's very like minimal, and they're not into stuff like that.
Well, I have, my studio is full of equipment, which get my stuff. This is just like spillage of what comes in and goes out. But yeah, I've got some nice things. I mean, I'm old. That's what happens when you get old and you keep stuff.
You're a collector of things then, big time.
Try to be. I mean, if you're not a fan of something, I think there's something wrong with you.
See, I'm going to hold on to that, and I'm going to start throwing that back at people. Obviously, Supernatural, I'm obsessed, but I'm also obsessed with The Walking Dead, and I recently bought a jar of dirt. It's just there on the shelf. I don't know if you can see it. It's kind of small.
Full as earth?
It's from the site of the windmill from The Walking Dead. There's a set, right? There's a big windmill in The Walking Dead, and it's like dirt from where it was. It's official, like the official website sold it. And I remember telling people, and they were like a jar of dirt. And I was like, yeah. So
it has a whole meaning. Do you fancy a jar? You fancy a jar of dirt? Dirt.
I've got one.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun things. My dad's actually up on that mantelpiece.
Really?
Yeah, he's in his box.
Just
next to a couple of action figures of him too, which is kind of fun.
I was going to ask, in terms of like merch of you, what's one of the strangest things you've seen yourself on, like your face? Because you mentioned action figures, that came to mind.
I've seen all that. No, I mean, I've had action figures of almost everything I've ever done. But there's like, I got Funkos by the ton. But I don't know. People make T-shirts of me all the time. I don't know. I don't find any of that derisory or odd. I find it rather wonderful that a show that's that simple can bring that much joy to that many people and actually bring people together, which is the best thing about it.
Mm.
That has always been the best thing about it, is that the themes of the show sit really, really well with, you know, people struggling with mental health issues and loneliness and all sorts of other bits. I don't know what it is, but it creates a place where it's possible, a common ground where people can meet and actually converse in a very positive way, which usually kicks off the good stuff about, you know, finding help and knowing that one is not alone.
It's strange as a viewer because I obviously grew up on this show. I was 14 when I started watching it. It's over half of my life.
Yeah.
And like that, you get into it, you binge it. Back then, the only way you could binge it is, I have it somewhere in here. I have like season 1 to 5 on DVD. But I remember there was a Christmas, all I wanted, there was a Supernatural book, and it was like this huge omnibook that had like air fresheners and like fold out posters. And I was like, that's all I want for Christmas because I know it's expensive, just that one book. Day before Christmas Eve rolls around, and I would have been 15 or 16 at this point. And I remember my mom being like, jokingly, wonder what Santa brought you? What did Santa bring you? Kind of deal. I was like, oh, you know, there's a book shape under the tree. And I just see the look of fear go between my mom and my dad. And I was like, or pajamas. I love pajamas. That's cool too. He forgot to get the book. I need to go down to Easton's, and he was like banging on the door to Easton's, like, please, Jesus. They ended up getting it. And I still have it on my shelf. I keep everything. But like going from that, going to like 14, 15 years of age to, I remember before I got my first job, I was so nervous. I worked in, like I said, it was a clothing shop. And I'd never worked in my life before. Crippling anxiety, like pretty bad. So started Supernatural beforehand and watched whatever amount of it was out throughout the first few months of having the job. And then just before lockdown, there was a health scare, and there was a surgery that was very scary. And when I came out afterwards, I was like, I only want to watch SpongeBob and I only want to watch Supernatural. That's it. I wrecked my family's head with it. After 2020, COVID and all that, my mom is a healthcare worker, so she was like, I need something to take me away, to distract me.
Yeah.
I was like, bitch, I've been on you for like 8 years about Supernatural. Just watch it with me, please. She fell so in love with it that I was teasing her. But the show has been around for so long. And like you said, it does mean so much to so many people. Is it strange for you, given the fact you've been a part of the franchise? I mean, obviously there's Doom Patrol. You've done time on the X-Files as well.
Well, think of Who, think of Battlestar Galactica, Firefly. Yeah. Firefly,
I forgot about Firefly. Fuck yeah.
Rabid. I mean, it's amazing. But there's a lot. I've been in a lot of shows that are very popular. White Collar is massively popular. Warehouse 13 is massively popular. Believe it or not, 24. I was on season of 24. It doesn't, of course, it doesn't surprise me. It's an antidote to, you know, entertainment is an antidote to what's going on in the world. It's a very interesting concept, but you know, it's not derisory to me. It's not a negative. Liking something, loving something is not a negative for me. It's a furtherment of the imagination. And if something's made with love and not cynicism, if something's made with care and is bigger than the sum of its parts because it's so many people putting their whole heart into something, I think it's absolutely worthy. I think it's absolutely worthy of celebration. And it's not that Supernatural saves lives. It just, I don't know what it is, but it enables people to come together who do save lives. I don't know why it works that way, but it does. You know, people like, this got me through. It's like, well, we're happy to help, but you did it. You know, it's always having to remind people that there's no substitute for professional help in clinical situations. Somebody's clinically depressed or clinically anxious or you know, is dealing with voices in their head or whatever. It's like having a conversation with an actor isn't going to solve that problem. But having them perhaps point you to a professional outcome, or being able to encourage you to not feel so isolated, and having an outlet which is a bunch of kind people all, you know, like in the Dumbass Angel or like in the, whatever, it doesn't matter as long as it brings people together. But it tends to have to not be done cynically or as a rip-off for it to work and have the effect that it has. It has to be something that's made out of love, because you can smell it otherwise, you really can. And if it's just the themes, good versus evil, family, support, constant fight, constant struggle, but outcome. The idea that it's not all pointless and endless and you're just going to be miserable at the end of it. There's the possibility of salvation or whatever, theme you want to put to it. But I think it's the most noble of endeavors.
Sacrifice, you said, was one of your favorite episodes.
Yeah, just because of the circumstances that went around that actual episode. It was, I guess, where we had all come together at that point, and it was, like Sarah had to create season 6 out of a dead season 5, and she did an amazing job. Some of the best episodes are in season 6. They're just really cool. Yeah. French Mistake is in 6, I think, and there's a lot of that wonderful weirdness and one-off. Weekend at Bobby's, they're all there. But season 7 then was the Leviathan one, which was a very serialized, mostly serialized endeavor, but it didn't actually kind of work in the flow of things. It would have been a brilliant season 12, say, but it was probably a little too early to have that in the reboot. So the whole Leviathan thing, it was received, but it wasn't the easiest of seasons to watch, I think, at that point. And then for Jeremy to come back, Jeremy, who also ran Doom Patrol, to run season 8, and he was like, let's go back to Angels and Demons. And it sort of went back to the core essence of what it was.
Yeah.
And so Sacrifice is weird because that they shot the exterior of the church in the worst weather I've ever seen. They built the outside of the church, and it was really dangerous. It was dangerous filming the weather there that day with cranes and stuff. It was really, really hard work on the crew. And then we got to go inside, which is the interior of the church, all the stuff with Abaddon, all the stuff forward, me tied to a chair throughout, and it was like 3 days of insanity. But we shot it in sequence. So we went from scene to scene to scene to scene to scene to scene, rather than having to shoot this bit first and then having to shoot that next, going somewhere else and doing it. We just locked ourselves on that set for 3 days. And the crew can make noise and crew can do whatever the hell they want in between shooting, because they've got to move stuff and turn the entire thing around, or take 50 lights and move them the other way and take off walls and start filming in a different direction. And they were silent throughout the whole procedure because they knew what we were doing. What we were doing was so intense. I think Jared said it, I didn't really get out of that chair for 3 days. I just sort of sat there tied to that chair for most of the time. And it was just like we all knew we were trying to do something really, really good, and that it was really, really hard work. And we just wanted it to be great. We wanted it to be really good. And I think it was. I think it was some of the best stuff we've ever done. Certainly acting-wise, it's probably the best bits of Supernatural. But you needed that to bring you back to, the angels falling from the sky, then you get season 9, then you get Demon Dean, then you get all the fun, the bits of that. But it's hard to sustain something for 15 years, let alone knowing now that you go to a convention, and because of the pandemic and because of Netflix and because of that stuff, there's people who are brand new to it. So you're getting about 50% of a convention audience are genuinely, see if something important come up. No, nothing. But I do have to check sometimes. 50% of the audience are new, and that's kind of crazy to me. And what must be really funny is they're looking at, season 1, and there's a couple of boys on the screen.
Yeah.
And they're men now with kids. It's a very different scenario. I was, after Bobby, I was the old man on the show. But, I'm 61 now. I knew Jared in his 20s. It's a very strange change. My daughter's born on Jensen's birthday. Jensen's daughter's born on my birthday. And Jared has a son called Shep. So
you're all weirdly intertwined. That's nuts.
But yeah, we are. You can't sort of get away from it. It's not deliberate. No, obviously,
Yeah.
none of those
Yeah.
deliberate. But it's funny when you realize this is a huge portion of my life. You know, I met my wife through the show. I met, you know, caused all sorts of consternation, which is hysterical. But it's a massive part. My life would not be the same if I hadn't done Supernatural. I mean, it was always on TV. I didn't become a series regular, I think, until 10. Yeah, I refused to sort of be part. Although they'd stuck me on the box and done all these things, I wasn't actually a series regular because I could go do other things. So I was able to do Who, and I was able to do all those things at the same time without being told you can't do it. The trouble was for the Who things, I get a phone call saying, "Do you want to play this in Who?" And I'm like, "Fuck yeah!" And then I called my producer on Supernatural, and I'd signed for this next episode, episode 12, and it was a really quick turnaround episode, just where it was in the year. And they're like, he's like, "I can't let you go. I can't. I need those days. You have to be there. I've got no other days to move it to." So I had to tell him no. So I had to call him up and say no. And I was really depressed by the idea that I could just got offered a great role in Who, in probably the best season of Who written. And a really smart producer at the BBC called me the next day and went, "What are you doing now?" I mean, "What do you mean now?" He said, "Like, what are you doing tomorrow?" I went, "Nothing." "Why?" He says, "Well, could you fly out tomorrow? Because this is all planned for like 2-3 weeks in advance." And I was like, "Yeah." So I was like, "Great, solve the problem. I can go do it before I do it." They flipped their schedule the other way for this two-parter. They just flipped their schedule. 18 days of shooting, and they had to work out where I fit in those 18 days. And then got a phone call from the office going, "Tell me you're not on a fucking plane." I'm like, "Oh shit,
I'm not on a fucking plane.
No. Yeah, but you got to be really careful with that stuff. So I called up Sarah Gamble and said, "I think I made a really bad mistake." And I said, "Well, I want to do this, and I'm doing this." She said, "Well, it doesn't sound too bad. I'll call you back in an hour." 3 hours later, she called me back. And it wasn't her that called me back. It was the first AD, Johnny Mack, who's no longer around, unfortunately. Lovely guy. And all I got was this, "Mark, hey." I'm like, "Hey, Johnny." He's like, "All right, get on that fucking plane. But if you're late, I'll kill you." And so I literally flew backwards and forwards between basically Cardiff and Vancouver 4 times so I could do both at the same time.
You had no time in between?
God, no. I'd land, get in a car, go to set.
Okay, so when you're balancing two, I was gonna ask if you're balancing a big project that is like a lot of dialogue or like very heavy hitting scenes.
They're all heavy.
But how do you find time to prepare for that when you have 2 simultaneously?
My fucking job. That's what I do. I mean, it's like if you really want to do something, you work out a way. I mean, I just played a gig. I played a gig in New York with Billy Moran, who I play with, Dick Spate, who I don't play with, and Jason Manns, who I don't play with. And I was the drummer on all 3 bands. So 38 songs, right? And then a week before that, I just played in England with Billy and Paul Corello, which is Tricky MC. So I played 19 songs of that. So I had 19 songs to learn of that and about 38 songs to learn for the other 3.
I imagine acting is very difficult, but I would think
Why?
that reading lines.
Why would you imagine it's difficult?
Well,
I mean, it's difficult for those that can't do it. It's difficult.
Yeah, but like that, early mornings, late nights, so many words you got to remember. If you're in a scene,
No. Listen, you know the words to pretty much every 21 Pilots song, right?
Yeah,
that's all it is. Just a bunch of songs. And if you give a shit, you remember them. It's the fact that you're explaining them to somebody. You could explain the words to a 21 Pilots song to me the same way as I can explain the drum part.
You got to throw in scene partners. If I'm trying to explain a song to you and you keep talking about, look at the colored sky over there or whatever the fuck, you're going off script or you're being difficult.
But that nobody goes off script and becomes difficult. Otherwise, you just do it by yourself. But that's an obstacle in and of itself. It doesn't stop me saying what I'm saying. It gives me different reasons why I'm saying it. It's the same as playing with a bass player who's not listening to you. If you're playing with a bass player that's not listening to you, the bass and drums, and if he's not listening to me, which I played with many, many bass players that are not listening, I don't give a shit. I just start directing them. There's ways of forcing your environment. I've been doing it a long time. But when you find a bass player that is really listening to what you're doing. I just did a gig with a Nashville session bass player. Just so good. And before I started, I was like, okay, just to let you know, I tend to sit really back on it. Think like Stan Lynch in Tom Petty's band, original drummer Tom Petty. It's like, oh, cool. He's playing. He's like, oh yeah, that's fun, because it gave him room to move and play. So as long as I can see my bass player, I can hear the other stuff that's going on, but I can see my bass player, feel everything they're playing, then it's just about what's fun for us to play. I don't play the notes that were written for the thing that was done. I mean, there are some phonetic things in songs which you kind of have to hit if it's part of the song. You know, ba ba ga. You know, so you got to have ba ba ga. All right, so I know what that is, but what I do in between is my business. So I've never played the same thing twice, ever. It's incumbent on me to present something that supports somebody singing something and telling a story. It's incumbent on me as an actor to present my part of the story in order that the whole story makes sense and is interesting. And when you've got 30 or 40 different writers over the course of 8 years that I did that, they'd start writing the result of what I tended to do with things, which is not easy. They were writing me parts, right? Like the equivalent of writing me parts. It's like give me a chart to a part rather than saying, here's a bunch of stuff, sort it out, which is how it started. Here's the information. How you serve it is your business. Once they'd seen me do it and saw what I could do, they started going, and they started overwriting some of it. So overwriting the result of it. And I had to ask really nicely. It's just like, just simplify the shit out of it and we'll find a way through it. It's the same with music to me. It's like, just play and I'll work it out. You know, I was quite well known for playing. So when I played with Hitchcock in 2017, I went on tour. When I left the show, I went on tour with Robin Hitchcock. So I hadn't played with Robin Hitchcock since 1981. But I remembered every freaking song he'd ever made that he played with a band in that entire period. So I'm now playing 8 different drummers' stuff. There's a song called America, which I love. Blah doody blah blah doody blah blah doody blah blah. And it was recorded in 1981. And it wasn't me. And I think the guy was using triggers at the time. Rod was the drummer, and he was using triggers. Good drummer. But there was this electronic sound. It was a bit like a China, a bit like some sort of dirty trash can sound that's very important to this figure. And this is a figure you've got to use, otherwise the song sounds different. Yeah. Boom, blah, doom, blah, blah, doody, blah, blah, doody, blah, blah, doody, blah, right? And then it goes da da da, right? But it's musical. So I went to Kirsten at Zildjian, who's the head of A&R at Zildjian. I went, I need something that sounds like that, and I held up the phone. Pulls out a cymbal, goes, I know that's it. And that goes on my right. So I'm playing with Robin, and it was a K dark dry trash cymbal, and it's exactly the same note as on the record. And then you work out how to incorporate that in other things. These are just tools. What you actually do at the time is down to the performance. What you actually do.
You're very much a feel it kind of person.
Yeah. I mean, lucky enough, I wasn't trained, so I don't have too many bags of tricks to do. But I mean, it just annoys the shit out of me when I can tell that it doesn't make any sense. So I tend to stop myself a lot. In music, if I'm uncomfortable and I'm not relaxed, I can play and it'll still sound good. But it's totally different than when I'm just fucking off with the Pixies, having a blast. It doesn't mean I'm doing a drum solo. It means I'm actually sitting in the music. My idea of joy is not being heard. It's almost being felt, not heard.
I'm the exact same. I'm not one for big fills or for big, like showy moves. I'm trying to watch drummers' hands to learn parts. I'm a visual learner. Yeah, I can learn by ear, but I'm very much visual as well. And if you watch,
I didn't have that when I played. I had to work it out myself. I wanted to learn how to do a Purdy shuffle. I had to learn how to do it backwards. Actually, the drummer Tommy from Mama's Boys was the first person to show me a Purdy shuffle 30-something years ago.
It must have been impossible to try and learn things back then.
It was, because you didn't have video. You had to study music to learn dots, to learn how to copy something which is way more nuanced than dots. And now you can do something and everybody can see it.
Do you find that you use, but if you're looking for something, or if you're looking for almost a tutorial, would you go to the internet, try and see if someone else has done it? Can you know?
Yeah, I mean that's fun to do. But if I'm in the process of doing, it's like I want to go hang out with Dave Elitch. So Dave's really cool dude, amazingly cool dude, but he's fixed so many drummers' problems, posture, breathing, like actually where I'm sitting. And a load of drummers I know, really, really good drummers that I know, have gone to Dave and then can't play for 6 weeks because he's shown them they have to do something different. And they're like, fuck, and I'm doing this ergonomically badly. And then it's improved their drumming. So there are people there that aren't just gurus, but they fix, the inherent issues that you don't end up with massive carpal tunnel issues. And because I mean, basically hitting shit, no matter how clever you get, you're hitting shit. So yeah, but you shouldn't be twisting if you're doing it right. Why can you sit on a chair, right? And yet on a drum kit, it's harder. Then you need to be moving your drum kit to where it's supposed to be. So you're like, now you can video yourself and say, oh my God, I make that so difficult. Why don't I move that floor tom 4 inches out? Because I'm nowhere near the middle of it. And what's really bad is if I'm playing with Loudon Swain on Saturday Night Special, Steve has a completely different kit setup than I would. He's got 2 up, 2 down. So I'm used to 1 up, 2 down. The middle of his 2 toms is where I want to be hitting. And he puts cymbals in different places than I would have cymbals. And my shit sits above my hi-hats. Always have 1, 2 above a hi-hat.
Yeah.
Post of my hi-hat is here. My cymbals are there, right? So K Constantinople, 2K Constantinople, 17 and 19. Now the new 20 projection ride, which is absolutely ridiculous. It's got a bell the size of Canada on it and a whole bunch of Ks. I've got cymbals by the ton, but I'm saying but I don't have to think. It's there. Toms, and the tom's there. So nothing moves, right? It just sits. So I get on somebody else's drum kit and it's like I have to think about every hit.
Everything's different. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Adapting is. So it's a lot more fun being a DW artist where they have to send me a drum kit and I can have it set up exactly the way I want it set up, where I want it set up.
So I started.
Yeah, 1 up, 2 down, 2 floor toms. But my standard kit is a 22 by 20 bass drum. It's like a cannon.
Jesus.
22 by 20, 14 tom, 16 and 18 floor toms.
They're monsters.
Yeah, if I was smart, I'd be using a 24-inch bass drum. But I love that. But that's not always practical. In my studio, it's a 22 by 18. There's a 12 up top and a 16 and an 18. But I've got 14s and I've got lots of drums. But they're all DW and they're all sort of mix and match, all different notes. I don't need more drums. I have 8 cymbals, which is enough.
There's always room for more.
Yeah, no, as long as they're making a sound that makes sense, as long as they're covering, what
I
they're
mean,
making.
just add to the collection. Just to be able to pop out.
I end up giving stuff to people and passing stuff on, which is fun. I mean, I've got enough snare drums to last me the rest of my life. Got some very nice, odd stuff from, like I had a 77 Black Beauty, Ludwig Black Beauty, which is a, holy grail snare drum. They're just really well made back then. And it's a classic. It's probably been on more recordings than any other snare drum in history. But I said to John Good at DW, I said, you really want me going on tour with a Black Beauty? And he goes, no, I'll make you one. So DW made me a version. But it doesn't have tube lugs. It has the turret lugs. So it's a little heavier and it sounds different to me. But it's a great drum. So it's black chrome on, black nickel on brass, 6.5, fucking cannon. And I have a Keplinger, which is like, you can't even play that in a rehearsal room, it'll kill you. It's made of a stainless steel drum. I've got concrete and Purple Hearts. They called me and they said, we found 2 shells that weren't drilled. I'm like, what are they? He said, well, we've got 2 8-inch black nickel over brass. Are you interested? I said, yeah. And so they drilled them for tube lugs. So I have 2 TW snare drums with tube lugs, on the sides of the turret.
Yeah.
Tube lugs, but they're 8-inch like Black Beauties. Those fucking loud bastard things, but lovely. Tune really high.
You're a high tuner, are you?
Well, you have to be on a deep drum. You need to be a high tuner. But then I have a carbon fiber pie snare drum, which is 3.14 inches. You tune that low, it's actually the opposite of what you think. So little skinny drums tune really well low, and big deep drums tune really well high.
I actually don't even know what dimension mine is. Mine's a Ludwig accent drive. Let's see if I can bring her over.
I like those lugs. That's yeah, it's a 5. Was that 6.5? Can't tell by the lights. I love the TrueCast. No, there. That's got a little age to it. Not a lot, but it's got a little age to it.
She is my baby.
Yeah, I mean, I have a lot of. I've got a 400, a Zildjian 400 over there.
You know what I want, dude? Did you ever play Goliath?
Yeah, not my thing because I'm a DW artist. I mean, I have a lot of stuff, but they can make me anything that anybody else makes.
And so you have a different one for home to on the road, do you?
I don't have anything on home. I've got touring fly cases downstairs in my garage, but I don't play here. I have a studio.
And that's where you keep everything.
God, yeah, I have a big studio. But it's a recording studio too. So, like Loud and Swain are playing the Troubadour when I'm away. That was going to be a show we were going to do, but they took the show because I'm not going to be around. So they're playing the Troubadour. I said to Steve, who now lives in Phoenix, I'm like, do you want a drum kit? And he's like, yeah. So in my garage, waiting for him I went and literally filled out a 22, 13, 16 kit, snare drum.
Just sitting waiting.
It's all in cases, ready to go, and they'll come pick it up and saves them $500 or whatever it is, renting shit in Los Angeles.
I don't think I've ever played a DW. I think Shannon Leto is one of my favorite drummers. I think he's also DW. I think
they're very expensive. I mean, and John Good, who's the wood side of that company, is all about there's a sticker on the inside of each drum that'll tell you what its fundamental note is. Its fundamental resonant note is. And I mean, it's down to whether I want plies this way, how many plies, bearing edges, whether I want cast hoops or pressed hoops. You've got pressed hoops on that Ludwig, which are very thin to me. And I have cast hoops like I used to have in my old Gretsch kits, which are heavy and have just have this amazing ability for me to hit rim shots on them. I've been playing since I was 12, so I'm 61, so I'm coming up 50 years. I took a 20-year break.
But you came back?
Well, yeah. Billy was like, you want to get up and play with us? I'm like, why?
What's the best show you ever played? Absolute favorite show?
Best show I've ever played? I mean,
favorite? Does it need to be the best? Could just be your favorite?
I played some wonderful stuff. The next one is always fun, but
yeah,
you can't really beat playing at Croker. It's ridiculous. Walking out on stage to the first, hi, we're a small local band opening for another small local band. So that's what made me laugh hard. I mean, I literally had to crane my neck to see from the Cusick stand all the way across. It was mind blowing. It was absolutely extraordinary. And it was a great show. It was a great show. But yeah, a lot of that stuff. There's a bunch of stuff I did with No Big Fire that's on RTE, which is really good. Some live stuff on there too.
I was looking up some stuff. I think it was yesterday, and I was like, this guy has had a fucking life. What the fuck?
Yeah, and death. I've died too.
Yeah, I heard about that.
Puts a different perspective on things. But you've got to enjoy it. You've got to love playing. Stop worrying about business. There's two types of jobs in the world. There's the job you do so you can do the thing you love. And there's the job you love. If you're really lucky to get the job you love, then you got to nurture it even harder than the other one, because to sustain it is mind-blowingly difficult. It's very difficult to do. But I've been lucky enough to be able to do what I love, and other people have had to put up with all the bullshit that goes with it. And I've struggled with it, and I've been broke, and I've lived in squats, and I've, as I said, I'm sober 35 years. So it's a long fucking time. It's a long time. But, I don't feel like I'm done yet. I don't feel like I want to be done yet. So next year we're going out to, when we do Crossroads next year, we're doing another concert. We did a concert at Crossroads this year. Yeah, we played. Tricky played. We had 800 people at the show, so that was really good.
That was this year?
Yeah, I fell off the back of the stage before the gig started. Nobody has photographs of it.
You okay? Because that shit hurts.
Oh no, it was so funny.
What happened? The stool was too close to the edge and you just...
Emergency room nurse who put my finger together. I was playing Birmingham last year because I forgot I was on blood thinners. She's like, I'm just pissing blood out of my finger, a little scratch on my finger. And she was, oh, for fuck's sake, she ran to the corner store and got super glue and she poured vodka on it, cleaned it up and put super glue on it. So I was fine. But she was at the gig and she saw Billy the next day, went to a picture with Billy, said, yeah, I've thrown my back out. She said, what, laughing at Mark falling off the stage. And she's an ER nurse who knows what my... So for 1 second, when you're young and you fall over, people laugh. When you're old and you fall over, people get scared. I had both. Because it was like, oh shit, maybe he's dead.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, if you all get out of the way, I can actually get up from this trough that I'm in back here. The last time I fell off stage, good God, was at Queen's in Belfast at the Ball. So we're playing Queen's in Belfast, and there's cathedral, you know, in the main hall, there's these cathedral windows. So I had a 3-foot drum riser, which I think my roadie used to call Brutus Bollocks. I don't know why, but it was just fucking huge. And we came back on for the encore, and my seat sheared. It sheared in half, and I went off the back of the riser, off the back of the stage, into the cathedral window, upside down, giggling like an idiot. I mean, this is when I used to play with a bottle of Paddy and 2 pints of Guinness by my hi-hat.
So everything was hilarious. Like everything.
It's hilarious.
But
I went like this, blap, and went, and gone. And they just turned around. Where the fuck is he gone? And I'm giggling, stuck in the cathedral window. That was the last time I fell off the stage. And then this time I just lit and I took the banners down, and it was so funny. Well, I didn't stumble off the stage. I fell off the drum stool backwards. It was very funny.
For no one.
Nobody, everyone saw it. Nobody has it on video or photographs of it. So by the time it's finished, it'll be a 400-foot drop and a parachute landing and all the rest of the stuff.
Arm pads, helmet.
Yeah, you go. Now, the great thing about technical drumming, whether you like it or not, is that if you learn technical drumming as a sideline, it makes that stuff in your head incredibly easy to do. That's the trick. Is practice all the technical shit you ever want to. Like over practice it to music, make it ridiculous. And you'll suddenly find that your left hand independence, if you're right-handed, is way, way better than it was 3 months ago. And you can actually do shit that you didn't realize you could do, but it was already in your head. It just makes it possible for you to get around easier. So all those guys doing like crazy shit, like watching all the guys like watching Larnell Lewis playing and watching those guys play. That Larnell thing is me and Max are sitting in the front row just going. You know, 6-stroke rolls are fucking useful. They're really useful because they sound good. Hurters are really interesting to get around a kit. Yeah. It's not about being technical. It's about, oh my God, that sounds so much better if I can do it with the other hand. You know, I can actually literally, I'm not talking about being in a covers band. I'm talking about playing the music you like and going, oh, I have a whole other aspect to doing it. And I waited a really long time to do it because I was making records before I could really play. But now it's a lot more fun for me to go,
I'm going to play, just fuck around with it a bit.
Learn your rudiments, you know, a better hand grip, work out how to play, you know, spend a month playing left-handed hi-hat. Well, every great drummer I know does that.
Yeah.
And it just makes it easy when it comes down to finding your pocket, and which is the only thing that's actually important, is finding your pocket and hitting shit. And dynamics. What do you like about stuff? Just listen to as much music as you can. My drum tech, who is actually a lawyer and a therapist, which is really funny. She's brilliant. She works for the NHS. Very depressing. Brilliant person. But she's Jed Lynch's drum tech. He didn't play in the Mondays. Who did he play with? He played the band afterwards. Black Grape, I think, or something. But he played in all that stuff. And he's the only non-druggy member of that entire era. They end up playing live with Peter Gabriel and plays with Peter all the time. He's a wonderful player. And we share this person as our drum tech. And she's brilliant. So I have a portable, transferable psychologist, lawyer. And she's a good drummer too. She's a really good drummer. So it's kind of funny when I'm playing, and she's got the nasty, dry Lancashire sense of humor, which makes me giggle. So it's about having people that encourage you and push you. Don't stand still. Never stand still. I was laughing. I was like Cranberries. I was laughing about Cranberries. So I always loved it. We used to make fun of her voice because she was sounded like a culture for years. So everyone used to, they were getting big and everyone was laughing at her. I love her, I adore her. I thought she was incredible. I thought she was an extraordinary girl. Such a dark human being, but beautiful voice, a natural voice, you know. And I always loved the drummer. I was like, I don't know if he was replaced in the studio, but whoever the fuck is playing on that stuff is absolutely dead on perfect for that sort of indie pop era. It's so tight, so different than all the bands that were around at the time. And they had that as well, you know, the bands. Aslan's drummer was fucking amazing. Hot House Flowers drummer was amazing. They were consumers of music, listening to, you know, funk and jazz and whatever, and it sort of filters into what they were doing. I think it's really important to steal.
Well, I know you might say he's overrated, but I love Sugarfoot. I think he's that kind of in-pocket style, and he always talks about that as well, about yes, technique, yes, whatever, but about knowing your place in a song.
Not my guy. There's 30 guys to me that do that way more interestingly. Listen to Steve Jordan do it better. I mean, Sugarfoot's of an era. I mean, J.R. Robinson did more Quincy stuff than Sugarfoot did. J.R. being, you know, probably the widest drummer in the world, but really good. You know, the drum intro into Higher Love.
Yeah.
That's him fucking about in the studio, and they just recorded it. Rock With You. That's intro. That's JR. Listen to Steve Jordan playing, or go back to the early Tom Petty stuff, up to Breakdown, all that stuff. You know how far behind Stan Lynch is? That just so far at the back.
Mm-hmm.
Irving fired him, I think. She said, "Oh, you'll never have a hit record with a drummer that's behind the beat anymore." And I'm like, that's what everybody wants. It's that everything being pushed. And Ferroni plays with Steve, who plays with Petty up until when Petty died, was in the Average White Band. He was an amazing drummer. I think he played on Cocaine, the Eric Clapton thing. I mean, amazing drummer. Always was an amazing drummer. But I've always liked Stan more. I always thought that Charlie Watts was the biggest influence to me. As I played Gretsch and Zildjian, Kays. It's very Charlie. But no, Stan Lynch is actually more important to me as a drummer. Listen to the intro. There's an album called Pack Up the Plantation Live, because Tom recorded everything they ever did. And there's a version of American Girl with full horns on it, which is mind-blowing. And there's a version of Breakdown live, and you just go, oh, what a beautiful place to sit in a and you're like, oh my God, it's swampy, dirty,
sexy, it fits.
Yeah. Zigaboo Modalist played the Meters, Sissy Strut.
So do you like drummers that you like the style? Because I find, like I said, my favorite drummer is probably Josh Dunn, but that's not my style. He's very hi-hat and snare heavy. That's not my style. I'm more of a tom girl. I love playing around in the toms. Mm-hmm. But he's still my favorite drummer. I love his technique. I love
good drummer.
The kind of vibe that he brings. Like, I think
Josh played on one of my best mates' records. He used to play with everybody at one point. He's young, but he's a really good player. And Josh Freese is the same. He played with everybody, you know.
Do you gravitate towards drummers that you like the style of, or that you personally?
Musical drummer. Like, I was there in the Zildjian Live when Ash Sohn did the no fill. Watching Lionel Lewis play. Who's the most musical drummer. He plays in Snarky Puppy. Do you find the video to Lingus, We Like It Here?
I'm gonna have to start taking notes, man. You
want to blow your mind? Lingus, We Like It Here. Dun 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 dun.
Whiskey in the Jar, is it?
Which is a joke on fucking Eamon Carr's band, Horselips. That was their joke. That was Thin Lizzy laughing at Horselips, playing Derek Doom.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's it's like the diddly traditional shit set to pop. So Horselips were the first. Jesus Christ, he used to play with Eamon used to play in a leather suit with a giant shamrock crotch, which always used to make me laugh. It was really funny. But Lizzie that was a joke. That was one of the most successful records they ever did, and it was just a gag.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
In my opinion, I think Dancing in the Moonlight is the best song ever written. And every time you say that, people go to fucking top loader.
What Brian has that nobody else has is an inherent shuffle. He's a shuffle beat player. He plays shuffle. I mean, watched him play live loads of times. I've seen him play live 20, 30 times. But Boys Are Back in Town. Listen to just the drum part from Live and Dangerous. It's so fast and so skippy.
Yeah.
Not my style at all. Mine is way straighter. I just want it to be in a pocket. But it's genius, but it's not my style at all. That's because he's actually trained. He has technique. And that technique means his hands work that fast. So, I don't know. It's kind of fun. You can see the guys that did drumline. You can see the guys that played Bowron. Best band I ever saw in Ireland was Moving Hearts. You don't know about the Moving Hearts?
Moving Hearts or Moving Hearts?
The Moving Hearts. Davey Spillane. Originally, Christie was singing Moving Hearts. There's an album called The Storm. Not the live version. It's good, but it's traditional.
No, I've never heard of them. The Storm was an album, I think, by them. I've never.
The Storm is an incredible album. It's one of my favorite records. But Davey, at 24 years old, playing rhythm pipe, playing a chanter, playing the whistle, and there's notes on there that don't exist on the whistle. And he's famous for playing with Kate Bush. And he's famous. They did the soundtrack for the Titanic. So them and Clonaf and all those guys I knew back in the day. But Moving Hearts were incredible. The Storm is the weirdest.
I probably would know him to hear him because, like I said, I grew up in such a musical household. My parents obsessed.
But it was that weird thing of taking traditional music and making it interesting. And Lizzie were part of that too. People forget how good Lynott was as a bass player. To play like that and sing those top lines at the same time is the same as like Sting, disconnected from
technicality.
Yeah, it's just amazing. There's a lot of shit to listen to. Moving Hearts to Storm is like, you got to remember, it's got like DX7s and D50s on it, but it's got traditional instruments on it as well, which makes it mind blowing.
I would say they're a weird mixture, and you wouldn't think they'd go together, but no, it does make sense, and it is of the time as well.
Well, they did a live version of the Storm at the Olympic Theatre, Olympia Theatre.
Olympia, if you're talking Dublin.
Yeah, I've played the Olympia Theatre.
Dude, that's a dream. The Olympia and the Academy.
Amazing. It sounds amazing in that place. I played the Olympia Theatre. Headlined the Olympia Theatre.
When you played in Limerick? What the fuck? You've played all these places. You do all these things.
I doubt if we'd ever get a chance. I'll see, but it's very, very hard to do.
Yeah, especially if you're coming over from England. I know, is it the ferry? There's something got to do with import taxes or whatever. That's why a lot of bands skip Ireland when they're touring.
No, we gear. If you bring gear over, now you have to fill out carnets, right? In and out carnets. So you have to do paperwork that you're bringing back exactly what you took in, so you're not selling it, right? But I have free gear in Ireland, so I just pick up gear in Dublin and drive to Limerick. That would be the trick. Or free gear in Belfast if I need to be in UK. I can't take it from Belfast across, but I've got free gear in Dublin. So I'm a DW artist. I just have to pay portage. Love to do it. Love to put Light a Big Fire back together again and go fucking tour. It'd be mind blowing.
You should.
I don't know if they talk to each other.
With time, I guess.
One's in Boston. One's teaching at the GAA.
What? How the fuck do you go from
two of them used to be revenue commissioners. It was amazing times. It was amazing times.
And that is it for my interview with Mark. I just, oh my God. I've always had a big appreciation for him as an actor and as a person. And then after meeting him last year at the convention, I was like, okay, this guy's fucking rad as hell. He's just, I don't know, he's been on my mind for like the last few months as like a dream guest. He's kind of always been a dream guest to me, but he's one of those unattainable, so incredibly busy, he's always doing stuff, you know. And I was like, it's okay if it doesn't work out, it's okay. So I can't really believe that it did go so well and that he's so beautiful. Excuse that sizzling sound because I'm making a painkiller because I have such a banging pain in my head. The heat in this room is killing me. My hair as well. I had my hair like really nicely curled for the interview. I was like, I'm feeling good. Halfway through the interview, I was like, I'm looking like a fucking sweaty seal. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed some of the stories and the little nuggets of advice that he gave. I know I did. I know I fucking did. I still can't believe that even happened. I'm just kind of sitting and simmering. Like I've been making videos for like a while now, and I do reaction videos and I do like reviews and stuff, but interviewing, in terms of content creation, interviewing is something that I love so much that like whenever anything comes around, I'm like, I'm so incredibly grateful, thank you so much for your time. But every now and again somebody like this comes around that I don't even know how to put it into words. If you love Supernatural, if you've met him at a convention, you know exactly what he's like, you know what I mean. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. And I know Mark doesn't usually do things like this either. So again, Mark, Jesus, thank you so much. Yeah, and that's it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you, Mark, so much for hanging and for talking. It's mad. It's Friday night at the moment, and I'm gonna go edit this now, and I actually can't wait to sit down and rewatch half of what was said, because my brain's frazzled from the heat. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much. And if you support the channel, if you watch along, leave a like or comment, whatever, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for being here. Yeah, and I will talk to you all soon.